Hello, ladies and gentlemen, what did it do? Hello, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about Knights Without Kings. Now, Knights Without Kings, the book release is going to be December 16th, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the actual novel, about its inspirations, about some of the characters, just a little bit more of a story synopsis in this video for those of you who would be on the fence about buying it when it comes out, or just to give you a better idea of what it's going to be about. So, Knights Without Kings is classified as a dark fantasy. And what that means, it's set in a medieval time period where there are castles, kings, queens, dragons, knights. That's basically the setting, you know, it's the era of steel, and but obviously there's the fantasy twist to it, judging by the dragons and magic. Now, in my book, there isn't a lot of magic. There is a little bit, but it's explainable, and it has its consequences too. You're not going to find any Harry Potter kind of like easy kind of magic. That doesn't happen in my book. There's a lot of consequences to the magic that goes on, and some of them are really I mean, it almost makes it not even worth it to use magic in some cases. And then, you know, dragons, in the first chapter, there's this, it's a wyvern. So dragons have kind of died out in my novel stories, and there are these dragonlings. They're more like distant cousins of the dragons. And there's one species that is really focused on in the novel, and it's a wyvern. And it's not terribly prevalent, but it's there. So yeah. So that's the fantasy aspect. Now, the dark part of it is that I make it realistic. Now, you're not going to find a knight in shining armor, and you're not going to find the maiden in distress. You're not going to find like chivalry, even though it can happen. It's just not that common, because in reality it never was. Or, I mean, I'm not going to say it never was. It wasn't so common. Like, knights were still assholes, and they still did stuff that was like really heinous even. The thing about this story is that it's driven by characters, not by setting. So it's these characters that I've chosen that make the story continue to move, and in my opinion, they make it interesting. Okay, so for when I'm talking to you about some of the characters when I'm talking to you about these characters, I'm also going to include sketches that are actually going to be in the novel. I was able to get a hold of my artist and told him to do some sketches for me that will be in the novel. So this is going to be the first time that you will be seeing them, or anyone will be seeing them. It's going to be right here in this video. So there you go, a little treat for you. For the first character, her name is Elamaya Artis Farnes, and she is a knight captain of the Holy Silver Angels platoon, and of the Ivataran faction, if you want to call it that. And at the very beginning of the book, she accomplishes her goal. She reaches the highest status of knighthood, and that has been her dream since childhood, and she's been working for that since childhood. And the reason I chose this character is because in most fantasy, you start out with a character either at their lowest point or at a point where it's a neutral point. They're not having bad times, but they're not having good times necessarily either, and that's what the novel kicks in and brings them to those good times, or even brings them to those bad times. For my character, this is the dream. She got to where she wanted to, and that's where I wanted with this character, because there's only one way to go with a character like that. And it's interesting because I wanted to, it's sad, it sucks, but I wanted to break her down and see who she was without all that status. And hopefully that's something that you'll be able to tell and decipher as you read the novel. For my other character, his name is Bendrick Greystone, and he is a retired war veteran of 2 wars. So we see the opposite of this. This is a character who's old, he's past his prime, he's teaching, he's a teacher and a trainer at this college called the Athenaeum, and that's what he does. He doesn't fight anymore, he doesn't go to wars anymore, he doesn't battle anymore. It's all about now just retirement and enjoying that. And that's a character that I really wanted to delve into, because again, that's not a very common trope for fantasy. Most people don't start out with the old guy being the main character. Usually the old guy is the mentor character that helps the young upcoming warrior become the warrior, and that's just boring. And by the way, he is training his daughter to be a warrior, and she has all the tropes. She has white hair that's like straight, and she's a really excellent fighter, but the focus is not on her. The focus is on him, and I feel like that's a very unique position to take with this character. The third character, and her name, she comes up kind of in the middle of the book, and she is half elf, half human. Oh, and by the way, there are elves in my story, but they are considered as extinct. So most people don't even believe they even existed to begin with. So again, it's not a common thing. For the elves that you do know, they're not this high and pretentious and wise characters. They almost have human characteristics that there's very little that differentiates them from I guess humans. That having been said, this character's name is Ada. She's half human, half elf, and it's very representative in her features because she has one ear that is pointed and the other that is not. And that is considered a curse for the elves and their traditions and their customs. They consider half elves or muddled elves just a curse and to be banished. The thing is, Ada always grew up around humans, so she has no idea about any of these stigmas. Anyways, I thought it was going to be an interesting character because she just comes out pretty much out of nowhere, and I've always liked characters that come out of nowhere and actually end up being part of the main cast. That has been one of my... sometimes I'll even watch a series and I'll be like, oh man, I really hope this character will become a recurring character. And it sucks when they don't. It sucks when they die right off the bat, but sometimes they do make it in some series that I enjoy watching. And speaking of series that I enjoy watching, some of the inspirations include Lord of the Rings. Obviously, J.R.R. Tolkien is the father of fantasy, but it's also, at this point in time, a lot of what he did are considered fantasy tropes. And it's not a good idea to copy him. So that's something that definitely, even though I pay respect to the father of fantasy, Lord of the Rings, Silmarillion, Hobbit, all of that, I don't want to copy a lot of what goes on in there, or even like I'm not saying copy, just get inspired by that, other than some basic fantasy settings. The next one would be Game of Thrones, obviously. I'm a huge fan of J.R.R. Martin and the books and the series. The books, I love the books a lot, and I have some problems with some of the novels, especially the last one, but here's to hoping that the next one comes out really soon. We believe in you, George. We really do. We want to see that happen. But it'll probably not happen for a long time. If the book comes out, I'm going to have a review of it on this show. Just saying, I cannot wait. I will eat that book up. So another series that I'm reading that was hugely influential to me. Whoa, I continue hitting the mic. Another series that I like that's had a huge impact on the way I write, and I'm still reading his series, is Andrzej Sapkowski's stories of The Witcher. So there's video games out there called The Witcher, and they're great games. If you're a video gamer or whatever, The Witcher 3 is hailed as one of the greatest video games of all time, and I have to agree, it is a fantastic game. And in a way, that's what got me into reading the books, because I wanted to find out the source material. The Witcher series books are amazing. I would even say greater than... Well, okay, it's just a different kind of fantasy from Game of Thrones. Okay, so I'm not gonna say it's better than Game of Thrones, but for me and the writing style that I have, that's what's influenced me a ton. And so I highly recommend it. If you like fantasy and you like the more gritty aspect of it with more realism into it, read The Last Witch by Andrzej Sapkowski. It is a fantastic book. I promise you, you will not regret it. And then finally, one of my other inspirations, and I guess this is a series I was really getting into when I started writing this book, and it's Berserk. Berserk by Kentaro Miura. Now, the manga I read after I started watching the series, and I'm not this huge anime or manga nerd. Like, I don't go out and have like shelves of manga, but for Berserk, I certainly do. I will, at some point, I have like 20 of the books, and I will continue buying them and reading them, and that's really the only series I'm interested in. Like, I don't really have, like, people recommended like Bleach, and I'm not talking about drinking bleach, even though some people have recommended doing that. I mean the series Bleach. Death Note and Gaunt Zero, which I do like Gaunt Zero. But anyways, that's way outside. It's way out there. So that was hugely influential to me too. So I would say The Witcher series by Andrzej Sapkowski and Berserk were the ones that really helped me find the tone that I wanted for this novel. So again, the novel's coming out on December 16th of this year. If any of what I talked to you about is interesting in the least, give it a look, give it a read, you know, give it a rating. And if you absolutely hate it, well, if you hate it and don't like it, that's cool too. You're not obliged or obligated to do that. So I mean, I really hope you enjoy it. And if not, you know, feel free to put a derogatory review or whatever. Like, oh my god, it's actually sucks. Oh my god, it's actually sucks. Oh my god, it's actually hate this shit. Deep shit. Fucking hate. So you can definitely, I mean, but if you enjoy it, you know, give me a good review or whatever, or not, or constructive criticism, whatever you want to do. But I would definitely like to hear your thoughts when the book comes out. So keep an eye on it. I'll be putting more videos up as the time comes closer, I guess. And I don't know how to finish this. I'm gonna figure out like a template. And if you haven't noticed, in all these videos, they're not exactly consistent in tone and style, and I'm trying to get the sweet spot. So we'll get there. The more videos I do, I'm sure I'm going to fall into a routine of how to do this, and I'm just looking for that routine. So if you have any suggestions for that, leave a comment below. Also, like if this video was remotely interested. And hey, I'm fair. Leave a dislike if you think that this whole thing is just ridiculous and you don't like books anyways. And if you don't like books, what are you doing here? You fuck off. No, I'm just kidding. No, we're good to have you too. If you don't like books, maybe you haven't read a good book, maybe, or you haven't read the book that you kind of like. That's a theory that I have. I know I'm on a rant here, and I'm about to finish the video, I promise. But I feel like everyone in the world likes books. They just haven't found the one that captures their interest or their imagination. Of course, some people don't have very much of an imagination. You can't help that. I guess not everyone likes books, so I guess I take that. But I guess the whole theory is moot then. Well, whatever. I will see you guys on the next time, okay? Take it easy and be safe out there. It's crazy. People are just insane out there, so see ya.